Hi, Sharon.
Hey, Amy, how are you?
I am so happy to see you. By quick intro, I wonder if you could just introduce people to where are you? Where is the Navajo Nation in the universe? And then where is Sharon Nelson today as you speak to people near and far?
Okay. Um, Greetings to everyone from Navajo Technical University in New Mexico, which is the eastern border of the Navajo Nation. The Navajo Nation is in the Four Corners region. The Navajo Nation is very large. It covers parts of three states, mostly Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. We are about the size of Vermont, they say. So I'm on the New Mexico side of the Navajo Reservation.
Where are you speaking to people from right at this moment?
I am in Crownpoint, New Mexico from Navajo Technical University, where I am an assistant professor of Diné Studies, Culture, and Leadership.
Thank you. I started sheltering in place right when I left the reservation, coming to Washington for meetings at the Smithsonian. So I have the same, I just have my suitcase of clothes. So it feels like we're just in our same meeting on the reservation. And there was the Hogan filled with people for this amazing workshop, and James Early and Don Whitehead were there. Did you guys close down right after that? Can you just take us through what happened with the progression after we left?
After you left, there was everybody was anxious about the news as there was a positive case that was identified in the almost the center of the Navajo Nation, a small community called Chimbito, where there was a Christian, some sort of revival camp meeting happen. And there was somebody that was not from that community who came into the community who was positive with the COVID-19 virus. And so at that camp meeting, there was a lot of people that came into contact with this individual. And so that's how this whole thing started. We started getting very anxious. Just at that time, at the end of that week was our spring break, so we had to quickly regroup. And we were told that we're going to have to shut the school down and teach online and through distant learning. So that's what we did. It was very quick, and there was a lot of panic among our students that it was just something that was talked about in the media for many months. And we, because of our traditional ways of thinking and knowing that, well, it's not gonna harm us because we know prayers, we know songs. That's the way our traditionalists think. But you know what? This virus, it does not discriminate.
Yeah.
So that's what happened.
Yeah, and when you say that the virus doesn't discriminate, it makes me also realize the greater risk that you were under. And I just wondered if you could share, obviously in the Navajo Technical University, you have water and you can wash hands and do all of
Mhm.
that, but people may not know about the reservation and the challenges and struggles that people are going to be under to survive this virus that does not discriminate.
Correct. We worry about communities that are our grassroots communities where they do not have electricity, they have no running water, they have no indoor plumbing systems. We have communities where people still have to haul water from a well and use that for their home use. So that's who we're really worried about, including our elderly population and our young generation as well, the children. So, and then also we are a matrilineal society. So a lot of the middle age to I'll say the baby boomer era, are taking care of their mothers and parents and aunties and uncles. So we have families within families that live under one roof. So with that, with not having running water and electricity, there's no way to keep this virus from spreading once one person contracts it.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, I'm remembering the medicine man who was in the Hogan the day of our workshop, who gave, it was kind of a prayer and a teaching. If it's appropriate, if you can share that, publicly, I've been using it in my own practice since I heard it.
Okay. Well, he's a medicine man here within the Crownpoint community. He works for a Navajo Nation Department of Behavioral Health program, and we usually invite him here for cultural stories. He's very visible in the community. We depend on him for advice. It just so happened that day he came into the workshop that we were hosting, and everybody had been talking about this virus. So he told us that in that session that not to talk about it, not to give it power or credit, as it's something that we should not bring forth. Like it's kind of like the way when you utter something in the universe, you give it the power to come back to you. So in that context, he used a snake as an analogy. He said, in our culture, when you see a snake, you don't bother it. You leave it alone, and it won't bother you or attack you. But when you do bother it, when you start poking at it and teasing it, it's going to get mad and it's going to attack you. And that's not the snake's fault. That's your fault for bothering this creature. So, and what he said is, so the same thing with this virus. It's out there, yes, but don't give it any credit, don't give it any power, so it can stay away from us. So that's what he said. So kind of like karma, he used it. It's kind of like in the karma context, where if you talk about it and you bring it to life and you bring it closer to you, the more you talk about it, the closer that it comes. That's the context that he was talking about.
And are there any, I mean, I was just wondering in general about traditional ways, sitting next to medical safety and how those systems, how do you see those working in your own life and in your family and in the nation?
Well, there's a Indian Health Service, which is a hospital, a government hospital set in each agency. And we have 5 agencies. And so each agency has a healthcare facility. But these healthcare facilities are far away from where our grassroots people live at. So from where I live on my ranch in Arizona, our nearest healthcare facility is within the Hopi Nation, because we're very close to the Hopi Nation. So we go to that facility, and that's an hour drive from my home, 60 minutes. And it's like that for most people. It's not convenient. It's not like a walk down the street. It's not a drive down 5-10 miles. No, these facilities are hours away. So it's hard to get medical attention from anybody should you become very ill. So we're in a very dangerous predicament here.
And, it goes without saying that the U.S. government is not paying enough attention to indigenous peoples throughout the country. But I'm just wondering, is there any response whatsoever that you're receiving?
I think there are small companies that are donating safety PPEs, but since there's a back order of personal protective equipment around the world, who's to say we're a priority? You know, it's always been that way. The US government is never responsive to us, to indigenous people, but the media shares all that is happening in New York City with the pandemic there. It's on the front page every day, but there's nothing here. And so, you know, we always feel like we're left down the cold, and people don't really understand. A lot of our people at this point are not staying in place, even though there has been executive orders by our president to stay in place and take shelter. And I believe that there's a reason why people are not staying in place, because our people have to go to grocery stores. Remember, we don't have electricity, so when you don't have a refrigerator to keep your food cold, you have to go to the store maybe twice a week to get some meat and some fresh vegetables from there to have your family to use that food. And also the kids are home too, so you're using more food every day because of all the school closures that have happened. So there's so many different dimensions of this that people don't comprehend, that they don't analyze these different complications that we have living on the reservation and in rural areas. But one thing that I will say that we know, that I know personally, that is very healthy for us, is that we have this space. We're not locked up in apartment and high-rise apartments. We can still go out and go on a walk, because my next neighbor is about a quarter mile away. So there's nobody to contact. And I think that's probably the other reason why people are still driving around, because we have a lot of distance between spaces. And you know that when you come onto the reservation, you're sitting in your car like, okay, when do we get to Gallup?
Speaking of Gallup, it's just such a troubling relationship that I experienced between the culture of Gallup and of the reservation. I just wonder, is there any assistance, or what is happening with Gallup in relation to the Navajo Nation during this period?
I would say it's just not Gallup, but all the border towns. But Gallup is considered the capital of the Navajo Nation, because that's where we pour all our monies. 75 cents to 80 cents of every reservation dollar goes into a border town. And so now with this pandemic, all these different pawn shops that take our money at the beginning of the month, our elders' monies, and even our own money, superstores like Walmart and Sam's Club and Big Lots and Safeway and Albertsons, they have not reached out to the Navajo Nation at all to give anything back. We're in dire need of drinking water. We're in dire need of personal protective equipment. We've made millionaires out of these people, but it's obvious that they're there just to take our people's money. And during these trying and tragic times, that they're not willing to give back. They are not willing to lend a hand in any way, shape, or form.
I think this is part of why it's so important to share this with people, because there's no understanding that the nation, the Navajo Nation, skirts around any of these towns that are sucking out and not giving back. And
right.
Let this be the moment that changes.
I sure hope so. I sure hope that we as Navajo people begin to make a paradigm shift. Paradigm shift means the way we think about doing things, the way we have done things. We need to make that shift to begin to understand that small businesses within the Navajo Nation we'll always get money back from them through taxes, small taxes that we have on them. We need to give our business to them. We need to develop our nation ourselves.
There was a virus in the 90s. Do you remember about that one, in 1993?
Yeah, there was a hunter virus. It was caused by rats, and we lived through that. There has been other pandemics that have happened on the reservation before, in the early 1900s with the Spanish flu, and then with the smallpox. Several times over it has happened. If we all work together as a team, if we can all understand one another and not be ignorant of each other's issues, I know that we can all get through this.
It's, as you said, we have to, and we have the resources within all of our own traditions to find our way through this and to find our way together, and to understand, which is what I've been trying to teach with my students, that yes, we're all in it together, but we're not all equally at risk.
Absolutely.
There are those of us in the human family that are more at risk than others. And because we are one being in the end, we have to understand what is happening in other parts of our being. And so I'm just so grateful for this sharing. And I just wondered, is there anything else that you would want to say before?
Yes, I do want to share one other small message, is that we have gone back to the basics with our cultural teaching. We believe that we have gotten away from it in the name of different colonial ideologies such as education and furthering yourself. All these things, we have gotten so much away from spirituality. So I feel like this virus has really got all of us thinking about our spirituality. That should be first and foremost in every moment that we live, that we should be thankful, we should have gratitude instead of having power over other people. We're very humble people, and this thing has really humbled us. And going back to our basics and going back to depending on what our ancestors left us, which is spirituality and the power of prayer and song.
Thank you for that.